Remembering ourselves, the issue of self-forgetfulness. Hello, class, and welcome. Today we'll be recapping Talbot's thesis on the idea of self-forgetfulness when interacting with technology. In his introduction to Devices of the Soul, Talbot reminds us that we are the creators of technologies because computers have no feelings. I'll provide a few examples of what we read about in the introduction, review the main points of Talbot's introduction, and then talk about next steps to reclaim ourselves, our souls. Talbot's fear of forgetfulness, also known as complacency, I think has come true, not only in technology, but as we have seen in this class in regards to the environment and also in our own governmental landscape. We seem to have adapted an attitude, and don't get me wrong, I'm just as guilty, that someone or something else will take care of it for us. I signed an online petition. Why am I not seeing change? I did my taxes online. Why do I owe money? The navigation told me to go this way. Why am I about to drive into the ocean? We've all seen it and we've all felt it. Why? Because we are the creators. When what Talbot is reminding us of is that computer programs were created and are created by humans. And due to this complacency, humans, as Talbot outlines in his introduction, are losing our creativity, souls, and innovation. But without human intervention, who will keep feeding the machine? And why is our interaction so important? Well, because we need to remember that computers are feelingless. Feelingless, a word that I, a human, have created and stuck with, even though MS Word keeps telling me it's incorrect. The technology has been programmed by humans, humans being individuals who have put thought and their own soulful emotions into said machine. MS Word keeps telling me that feelingness is not correct because someone programmed it that way. The creator's idea of proper grammar is obviously different than mine, but without these human interactions telling the program what to do, step by step, MS Word would not work at all. The fight of mine with spell check and really the human programmer that decided to tell Word that feelingness is not a word is a wonderful example of the piece of that programmer's emotion and thoughtfulness. The emotion I am feeling was brought up by a human telling the computer to tell me that feelingness is not a word. Okay, that sounds complicated. Let's move on. Technology serves as an awesome guide, but human intervention and uniqueness has to be part of the equation. Otherwise, as I mentioned before, it just doesn't work. For example, Talbot, in the quote shown on the slide, talks about how education is a flood of data, but in order for it to become really absorbable and learned, we need human intervention, i.e., a teacher's creative flair. I believe we've all felt this example in the first few weeks of class. Even though all of the information was posted in the interactive classroom and it was up and active, we still were kind of starving for a human advisor to help guide us. For the online classroom could not answer questions or give us a push to continue on. Only when our professor was able to start engaging did the information change into something more tangible and relatable. So Talbot's main point in all of this is really innovation is dependent upon human interaction and creativity. For example, remember that fight I was having with the MS Word over the word feelingless? Guess what? Another programmer at one point, who liked to make up words as well as I do, added in the ability for me to be able to save my crazy made up words into my own MS Word dictionary, and thus allows me to change the program to my liking. Allows me to uniquely put my own tasks within it. All I have to do is change the settings of the program. However, if I do not make that change, then the computer will not know or understand the pain point I am feeling because really it has no feelings. Just like that picture of Data. He was an android. He has no feelings. And it's really nothing personal. The computer just doesn't really know how to care. Talbot's other main point is that we need to reclaim our selves, meaning our ability to critically and creatively think, because our lives depend on it. Utilizing technology is wonderful, but we have to remember to keep the human spirit alive within it and cannot become 100% reliant upon that technology doing everything for us. Really, because it cannot sustain itself nor us. We have to keep being the creators. But how? Talbot actually makes a point of not offering any solutions. But I'm going to give you a couple of solutions that I've found helpful. And I thought about Talbot not really giving too many solutions. And in 2007, when he wrote this, social media was not the monster we see today, and technology was really in its infancy. The iPod Touch had just come out. Think about that a second. It was a world without smartphones. Only a decade ago. How do we survive? Since publishing, we are now more accustomed to technology and now have a decade to look back on to see what really works and what doesn't. So, as I mentioned, I have a couple tips to help you with. Really, these are kind of my ways to keep feeding my own soul and creativity, but they also work if you end up waking up in the matrix. Sorry, I only have 4 tips, not 7. Tip number 1, limit social media. No, I'm not saying to shut it all down. Social media is really great for a lot of reasons, but it is also proven to be extremely addictive. I read a Huffington Post article recently which shared that, quote, new notifications or the latest content on your news feed acts as a reward. Not being able to predict when new content is posted encourages us to check back frequently, end quote, which leads to repetitive addiction. So in the thread of Facebook, I'll share with you that I recently quit. And it wasn't out of spite or anger, but because I realized it was really sucking up a lot of time. I also realized I could better utilize that time. Time is our greatest asset to create and drive real change. The time I have freed up, I now consciously reach out to my friends to see them in real life and work on my own creative projects, which I hope will eventually help inspire others and drive change. While social media serves as a great way to stay in touch, real connections and innovations usually happen in person. Number 2, play mind games. Balance your checkbook the old-fashioned way. Do the math longhand, or find other ways to keep your mind sharp, but try to do it without the app. Do it in real life. This was another concern of Talbot's, which he talks about in that introduction. When leaving the simple math, or even really hard math, up to the computer all of the time, we potentially lose the innovative spirit left in the program by the human creator, and thus further lose ourselves, our independence, and maybe a little bit of our soul. Don't let all those years in school go to waste. Algebra can be a really useful party trick. Helpful tip number 3, navigation. Maybe break up with it, maybe just take a break. I admittedly will let you know that I am addicted to Waze. If you don't know what Waze is, it's a great app that is actually fed off of social engineering. If I see an accident or construction on the freeway, I can report it through Waze and help others around me. However, I began using it everywhere and stopped critically thinking about where I was or where I would end up outside of the destination. And no, I never ended up almost driving into the ocean. But now, once I realize that when I'm headed to a new place and I'm going home or backtracking, I turn it off. It helps make me present to my surroundings. I'm no longer looking at my phone while driving. I can actually see new things every time I'm going to this place. But sometimes I do get lost, and that's okay. Fun is in the journey, right? This one also saves on lots of data overages. Helpful tip number 4. And this one I think is actually the most important. We should all be creating something once a week. I like to think the author would agree with this point as well. I know, I hear you, but I'm not creative. And please pardon my language, but I call BS. We are all creators, whether it's mapping out your local grocery store to shop it quicker, or if you're painting or writing the next masterpiece. Maybe you tinker in the garage or paint an old piece of furniture. To Talbot's point, we as humans really are all creators. The action of doing thus lends itself to creating and then innovating. So I invite you to put down the phone, get out of your chair, turn off your TV, take a break from this presentation, even though it's almost over, and go create something. A story, a meal, a sculpture, an idea. These types of projects are needed more than ever. And while it's great that an app can create a petition to be signed online and then do an algorithm to see if it's actually going to pass in Congress and then make another petition, or maybe this app just turns my profile picture into a cartoon. It's great that we have those, but the real innovation will only come from within us, no matter your age or where you live. It's not going to come out of that smartphone. Without creativity or interaction, who will drive the next wave of change? The zeros and ones can only go so far. So, in conclusion, I feel that Talbot's book, and more pointedly his introduction, was more of a prophecy, a warning to our future selves. And noting that he himself didn't provide ideas on how to maintain self-forgetfulness, I really think he did it on purpose. He wants the reader to engage, figure it out for ourselves. So that leaves us to think and realize that this is just the beginning. Really, technology is very, very infant still. In a decade, I might be talking about how I'm just driving my car on my own once in a while. So with all of those thoughts in mind, in follow-up, I invite you all to comment and share what steps you suggest to help us remember ourselves. And let's take the driver's seat in technology and innovation and move forward and keep creating. Because as humans, we are all creators. Thank you for your time.